Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Regan and today we're going to be doing a short story generator kind of thing. I'm going to put up on the screen right now how I'm going to sort this out. So I've got this little jar with me and I've written down on little pieces of paper all of the different sections. So I'm going to be randomly picking out the genre to start off with, and then I'll be picking like the MacGuffin of the story next, and then I'll be picking the season in which the story takes place, and then also picking out the main character's gender. So I'm just trying to keep it relatively simple. So the reason I'm doing this is because at the start of every year I like to write a bunch of short stories. I usually around 4 or 5, maybe more if they're quite short, but the whole point of me doing these short stories is so that I can kind of get my creative juices flowing again at the start of the year, because usually after I've written these short stories for the rest of the year I'm working on projects that are quite long. So I'm kind of in the same story with the same characters throughout the rest of the year. I might switch between like 2 different works, but usually it's kind of just sticking with the same story. And it's quite a long, arduous process, and it can be quite difficult to find the motivation and creativity to carry on with it. And so at the start of the year I like to do this to kind of just get my creative juices flowing again, and to also feel that sense of accomplishment of actually finishing something, because these short stories are only going to be between like 5,000-10,000 words. They also allow me to explore some like different ideas, some different writing styles that I wouldn't typically use or work with in like a novel length story. So it's just a fun little creative outlet in writing without having to commit too much to it. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the generating. I've got this jar with me, like I said. I'm going to put the pieces of paper in here with all of the like different things written on, and I'm going to pick them out one by one and write them up on the board. Alright, so here is the pieces of paper for the genre that we're going to be picking. So we're going to pop those in the jar, give it a little shake, and then, so this is for Dark Academia because I've got it going down in that order. So for Dark Academia, the genre that we're going to be writing in is horror. So that's what we got for Dark Academia. That's a very good genre to write in for Dark Academia. I feel like that's a quite easy one, you know? Oh yeah, I probably should have said that I'm going to be doing 4 different stories over 12 weeks. Is it 12 weeks? Yeah, 3 months. So I'm going to be doing 4 stories over 12 weeks. So I've broken it down first of all into aesthetics, and I'm going to be doing 4 different stories, and each one's going to have a different aesthetic to go along with it. I've already picked those out, and then I'm going to be like lining everything up next to it. You'll see on the board. But those aesthetics are Dark Academia, Cottagecore, Baddie, like Insta Baddie, like Kardashians, and then finally Cyberpunk, which a few of these I've never really written in before. In fact, I don't think I've written in any of these sort of aesthetics before. Alright, so next up we've got Cottagecore, and we'll see what we get for that. So, got that one. And this is sci-fi next. That's interesting. I feel like that's the one genre that's probably the least cottagecore. Like, you don't think sci-fi cottagecore, but I feel like there's something really interesting that I could do with that. Right, next up is Baddie. So what genre do we have for Baddie? So we got thriller. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I'm already getting some ideas of maybe like a group of girls on holiday somewhere, maybe like an influencer getaway, and they're all doing like a promo thing or something. Maybe there's like a killer on the island. Ooh, you're not getting some ideas. That sounds fun. Which means that for Cyberpunk we have fantasy, I think. Yeah. So for Cyberpunk we have fantasy. Alright, so we have our genres with our aesthetics, and next up we have the MacGuffin. Now all of these, so if you don't know what MacGuffin is, basically it's like, what's a good example of one? Here's kind of a more recent infamous one. It's that, I don't know what it's called, but it's like that dagger thing from, I'll put a picture up. It's like the dagger thing that they have in Star Wars. It's the last Star Wars film that came out, like the big main franchise Star Wars film, where they have that like dagger thing and she like holds it up on the horizon and it shows like the outline of where she needs to go. So the definition of MacGuffin, because I'm terrible at like describing stuff. It's an object or device in a film or a book which serves merely as a trigger for the plot. So it's kind of like an object or something like an object that plays into the plot. It could be literally any object. And so what I did yesterday was I randomly generated some just objects. I mean, I won't tell you what they are until I pull them out of the pot, but I've got some interesting ones. Some funny ones that I'm like, it's going to be interesting to see how they work into these stories. Yeah, so this one's for Dark Academia, the first one. I'm just going to like, there we go. And for this, we got a harmonica. I feel like that kind of fits the vibe of Dark Academia, to be honest, like a harmonica. I don't know why, it's just giving me Dark Academia vibes. And the next one is for Cottagecore, so this is the MacGuffin for the Cottagecore story. And we got a helmet. So Cottagecore Sci-Fi helmet. So next one is for Instabaddie. The MacGuffin for that story is... Ooh. I feel like that's going to be kind of a difficult one to work into the story. It's a toothpick. I'm interested to see what I can do with that, because that's a really... it really is a random object. I feel like that's going to be the hardest one to try and do, is the baddie thriller. The MacGuffin's a toothpick. Like, what? So this is for... Oh, I don't... Why am I mixing it up? It's one piece of paper left. So this is for the Cyberpunk Fantasy, and it's a ball of yarn. Or ball of wool. That's just what came up on the generator. Normally I'd just say ball of wool, but ball of yarn. So, alright, so next up we have the season in which the stories take place. So, Dark Academia. I'm rooting for like autumn for Dark Academia, because that's very much a Dark Academia vibe. Autumn or winter I'll be happy with. Okay, we've got autumn. That's like perfect. Yeah, autumn's like perfect, peak Dark Academia weather. It's moody, it's grey, it's cold, it's dark. Alright, so next one's Cottagecore. Oh shit, one fell out. So Cottagecore, we've got summer. And then for baddie, we've got spring. And then last, winter for Cyberpunk. I mean, you don't need to see that one, you know it's winter. Okay, so winter Cyberpunk fantasy. I think that's going to be like one of the most interesting ones that comes out of this. I feel like Dark Academia so far has been pretty like on brand with Dark Academia, like all of the things that I've selected for it, or that have been selected for it. Cyberpunk is probably the weirdest one. Like Cyberpunk Fantasy, the MacGuffin is a ball of yarn and it takes place in winter. So finally we just have the gender of the main character to pick. So I've only gone with male or female just because I haven't got much time to write these stories. I've only got like 3 weeks per story, and I feel like if I was going to write a story involving like, I don't know, like a trans character or a non-binary character, I'd want to put in like a good amount of research and do a lot of character building and like really, you know, do it justice. I just don't think I could do that in the 3 weeks that I've given myself to write each one of these stories, and so I've just gone with the standard male-female. Maybe next year I'll do it a bit different. I mean, I'm probably going to do a completely different graph or whatever next year when I do this. So this is just what we're going with this year. So for Dark Academia, we have a male. I guess I'll put it back in. It doesn't have to be an even split male and female. It could be all male or female, a mix. I don't mind. It's just whatever the fates decide. So next up, this is for Cottagecore. We have a female main character. So we've got male Dark Academia, female Cottagecore, and then for baddie, I feel like it has to be female, right? Okay, well, male popped out. So, oh fuck. So this is a plot twist. We got male for the baddie aesthetic. Ooh. This is why I wanted to do this, because I wanted some like weird combinations, and that's definitely like a weird combination. A male main character in like a baddie aesthetic story. I feel like that's a really interesting way to go. Like I could do it from the perspective of like maybe an assistant of like one of the Instabaddies or something that's on this like vacation. I'm already got the cogs turning. Like that sounds interesting to me. Or maybe it's like there's a killer and it's from the killer's perspective and he's hunting down a group of these women. Ooh, I'm getting like some fun ideas here. Alright, and then for Cyberpunk, we got male for Cyberpunk as well. So, 3 male leads, 1 female lead. Not as evenly split as I'd like, but you know what? I let the fates decide what we were going to do with these stories, and so that's what we've got. So I'm going to go finish writing up all that stuff on the board, and then we can get into outlining the first story, which is going to be the Dark Academia story. That's the one that I'm going to start off with. Right, so I'm going to get to work outlining this story, and then I'll come back once I kind of have a rough outline, and I'll go over it with you guys and talk about what I've got so far. Alright, so at the moment I'm just trying to figure out or think of some things that are kind of often used in Dark Academia stories, and so since I've been reading a lot of them at the minute, I've kind of made a bit of a list already on some of the tropes, just things that happen or things that show up a lot in Dark Academia stories. So from what I've noticed, or what I've written down, is usually it takes place in an academic setting like a university or college. Typically there's some kind of secret society or shady, like, close-knit group either central to the story or kind of lingering about in the shadows. Pretentious characters, usually. It doesn't have to be the main character, but well, it's usually a mix of either a pretentious main character or a pretentious, like, group of characters that are in direct contact with the main character. People that tend to be obsessive about old/ancient literature, philosophy, myths, legends, and just very obsessive about education and academia in general. They also tend to have a lot of dark themes, hence the name Dark Academia. So things like murder, rituals, sacrifice, drug use, alcoholism, things of that nature. So I think I'm going to incorporate some of those things, if not all of those things. An academic aesthetic they usually have, obviously. So like dark colours, especially brown, black, navy blue, dark green, trench coats, shirts, tailored trousers, glasses, tousled hair, that sort of stuff, that sort of style. And then also having rich parents, rich families coming from a wealthy background. Not necessarily the main character, like I say, but it could be the majority of the people there, or like a good portion of the people that are there. Also, Dark Academia books, from the ones that I've read at least, typically tackle things like, well, themes of elitism, classism, racism, sexism, stuff like that. So I'm wondering how to kind of incorporate some of those things into what I'm writing. Alright, so this is probably going to be the final update that I'm going to give, because this is taking a lot longer than I was expecting it to. I've only really started developing a couple of the characters in the story, and it's taken me like a good hour so far. I haven't even started outlining the story really, but I've kind of got an idea of how I want it to start and the characters involved and where I want it to kind of go. Here's kind of what I have so far. So I've come up with the two, well, the main character and then the main side character. So the story starts off with a young guy named Rowan Morrow, I think that's how you pronounce it, and he lives with his single mother. His father died when he was a bit younger. He's quite a reserved person with a quietly judgmental attitude, especially towards the rich, because his father's side of the family is a very wealthy family, but they don't really want anything to do with him or his mother because they never really liked him or accepted him. The only people that ever accepted him and his mother were obviously his dad and his dad's dad, so his grandfather. He was also accepting, but everybody else on his father's side of the family, very judgmental, just kind of want nothing to do with him and his mum. The only other person is the side character, and that is Rowan's cousin, Theo Livingstone. So Theo is kind of the only person from Rowan's dad's side of the family that still talks to him, and they've maintained like a good relationship. They still see each other a lot and like hang out and talk and all that. They're still quite close. And Theo comes obviously from the rich side of the family, but Theo's kind of presents himself as a bit of an airhead. So he's kind of very like golden retriever energy, if you get what I mean. He's very like energetic, he comes off a bit thick, he's very intelligent, very smart. He just kind of at face value seems a bit dense, but I think that's just because he presents himself as a really nice, kind person. He doesn't really understand properly how wealthy he is, how well off he is. Well, he knows that that's affected his family's relationship with Rowan, and he knows that he's obviously wealthy, but he doesn't really understand the consequences of that or the reality of it. because obviously it's all he's ever known. He's a bit out of touch. And also, like I said, with Theo being like a very energetic, kind, loyal kind of person, he tends to trust people really quick. And so the way I'm going to kind of try and weave that into the story is they're going to start university together because they're the same age, but obviously they're coming from the same family but from very different financial backgrounds. And so Rowan's going to be kind of going into this world where there's a lot of like really rich people around, but he has Theo with him to kind of guide him through it and be that foot in that world. And then I'm going to have like a secret society kind of lingering in the background, and Theo kind of gets pulled into that because obviously he's more trusting. And so that's kind of what I'm working with at the minute. And also there's this harmonica involved, and I think the way I'm going to work that in is I'm going to have the harmonica be Rowan's grandfather's harmonica that he left in his will to Rowan, and the harmonica is going to somehow fit into this secret society and be connected to it. But I'm not 100% sure, I'm not 100% set on anything just yet, so I'm going to carry on working on this. I think I'm going to end this video here because I could honestly go on for like another hour, but I just don't have time. I don't want to stretch this video too long. I'm going to be doing 2 more videos in this, I guess, series of videos where I do all of these stories and write all of them. I'm going to do my second one of these videos, I think probably early February sort of time, and then the final video I'll be doing that at the end of March once I've finished writing all of the stories. So there will be updates on this, and I'll probably talk about it here and there throughout other videos that I do, but that's what I have so far. I just wanted to kind of explain what I was going to be doing with this and how I'm going to be writing short stories. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm sorry if the lighting's a bit crap. I'm using like I'm using this I'm using a candle with like a book lamp on it. That's what we're dealing with at the minute. It's a bit janky, but oh well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe if you want to, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!